Hi everyone, this video is a continuation video of my previous videos related to twin flame relationships, divine counterpart relationships, and also neglect related paths or patriarchy related problems or parental and relationship neglect related problems that can arise in relationships when we are not at a optimal relationship dynamics with someone. So all of these topics were discussed in my previous few videos, and one of my last videos I got cut off in the end. So I want to clarify and speak a little bit more about the topics in that video, and then continue in this video with a little bit more discussion about the twin flame dynamics. So in my past video, when I am talking, all the videos where I have talked about all the life problems that I have faced in the past, the reason I am talking about these problems are because many twin flames will have these common theme. Many people who are in the divine counterpart or ascension journey, they will all have this common theme of real suffering and real pain and deep level suffering and pain of many decades in their life. Even if in Hinduism you've looked into the life of Radha Krishna, you've looked into the life of Shiv Parvati, you will see that they were also divine counterparts and twin flames. And even though they were twin flames, they also didn't have a very easy life. They had a real hard life that manifested for them. Even people like Mother Mary and Joseph, they also could be considered as divine counterparts, and being divine counterparts in their life journey also, they were divinely guided to be in each other's lives. Like if Joseph hadn't been guided by God to take care of Mary when Mary was pregnant, and she had been she would have essentially been like a single mother otherwise in that day and age. Without Joseph, Jesus's childhood days would have been really painful. Mary's motherhood would also have been a very painful journey being a single mother. So that's why they were divinely guided by God to become each other's spouses, even though Joseph was not the biological father of Jesus. So these kind of challenges, which was a very challenging thing, imagine even now there are so many men who have a hard time taking care of someone else's child as their child. There are so many women who have a hard time. If you find out that if your partner has cheated, again we have a very hard time accepting that cheating or accepting the child that is produced as a result of that cheating. So imagine now what was the scenario on earth, on a 2000 year back earth, when things would against cheating and disloyalty and other concepts that are darker sin related concepts were so much. People didn't People had a much more harsher life, crueler life back then, right? Like there at that time when Jesus Christ was crucified, he was so cruelly punished for whatever they deemed him guilty of, right? So when he was punished, he and the other two people who were crucified with him, they were so cruelly punished because at that time it was a crueler earth, harsher earth, less awakened earth, because we were at a different century of life. So with every century, every thousands of years, we are every few even decades, we are slowly evolving into a different version of humanity, a more evolved version of humanity. And when we continue to evolve in a better way, when majority of humanity continues to evolve in a better way, that is when humanity starts to ascend together. And while at the time of Jesus Christ, only he was able to ascend, or even at the time of Buddha and other ascended masters who came on earth to teach about different kinds of spirituality, all of them were able to ascend and become an ascended master in some way. All of them were able to do it according to the time period of life they were existing on earth, And with the turn of the century or the decade or a few decades of earthly existence, when it has passed on earth, we ascend according to the needs of that century. That's why in this century there are certain concepts of older teachings that are again coming back and getting revived right now on earth, because there are certain parts of older teachings related to any field of work that we have done in the past, be it spirituality, be it religion, be it even basic science and maths, in any subject that or governance related rules. Everything is slowly shifting and aligning according to what is needed next in this century of earthly existence, for humans to ascend into a better way of living, and for humans to change and shift from what they have been doing in the past, retain the things that are needing to be retained and are good qualities that should be present even in the present, that was prevalent in the past. And humans have to also start shedding those things that in the past also was harmful and even in the present is going to continue being harmful, or in the future might become really toxic. So all of these things, in order to create a balanced and harmonious and higher quality of life, related earthly life, that higher quality can't come if you ignore the parts where low quality is there, or bad things are happening, or things that are cruel and oppressive or misaligned with higher quality living are manifesting in our lives. And that's why only twin flames and divine counterparts exist on earth, because they are here to bring a deeper understanding about the duality of existence on earth. Meaning, in the duality of our existence, we all go through light and darker experiences. And usually, if you are a twin flame with your twin flame, it doesn't matter whether you have lived your life with your twin flame or whether you're living very separate lives without your twin flame for many years. And if one or both have not been also aware of each other as being each other's twin flames, or one or both has categorized each other as simply each other's friends or something, whatever it is, if you are a twin flame and you are on the twin flame journey, your awareness of the twin flame journey can happen at any stage in your life. But even when you are not aware that you are a twin flame or you are on the twin flame journey, many lessons related to the twin flame journey will still manifest in your life. So for me, I became aware that I am a twin flame. I knew about the twin flame concept in my 20s, but I didn't believe that I was a twin flame back then when I was in my 20s. And in my late 30s is the time when I actually got consciously aware that I could potentially be a twin flame. So from my early 20s to late 30s, almost like 15 years might have about 15 years might have passed. In those 15 years, I was completely clueless about being a twin flame, but that doesn't mean that in those 15 years I didn't have a twin flame journey related experience. And even before I was even introduced to the idea of twin flames, when I was a child, when I was a teen, at that time I didn't know about the twin flame concept at all. And despite not knowing about the twin flame concept at all, even from childhood days, there have been experiences that were related to twin flame experiences that I'm understanding right now. Because as a twin flame, some of your past life experiences, or like when you were younger, or 10 years back experiences, 2 years back experiences, all of it is slowly shaping your experience as a twin flame, and giving you the keys to understanding what is the higher purpose of your existence as a twin flame on earth. And if you learn the right lessons, and if you see many twin flame related teachers who are present in the internet, who give guidance about to the twin flame students about what they need to do next in their twin flame journey, you will see many people are getting guided to do certain things like inner work, self-reflection, doing healing, doing meditations. All of these are necessary part of the twin flame practice. because while doing all these practice of inner work, self-reflection, meditation, and you are supposed to connect to the divine also as a part of your journey. That's why spirituality and religion is an important aspect as well of the twin flame journey. All of these are necessary aspects because they will help you align with your higher path. They are meant to help you align towards your higher path. Whether you will align or not, whether you will go there or not, depends on the deeper level inner work we have done, the depth of the work we are capable of doing, and also the divine timing of certain things related to our twin flame journey. I hope this made sense. So that's why when I'm speaking about psychological abuse, speaking about child abuse, speaking about child neglect, speaking about relationship neglect, all these are important paradigms for people when they are going through a life journey with a partner, with a parent, with a family, because if let's say you have a particular soul purpose that your soul contracted with before you were born on earth, meaning you have a life purpose, like maybe if of understanding child neglect a little bit more deeply. And the reason why you have to understand child neglect a little bit more differently than what normal people understand, why that is required, is because maybe there are certain children on earth whose needs may not be getting met, because people might be thinking that these children being from a maybe a financially privileged background couldn't possibly have neglect. That could be one reason. There could be other reason related to child neglect, that there are children who are unseen by many people because of their socioeconomic status, that even if because they are not rich, they are not privileged, they are not even observed by anyone. So understanding their child neglect becomes a difficult journey, because they are not even being witnessed or observed by anyone about related to what they are going through in life. There are also many children whose parents or grandparents or family have listened to them about many stories related to their life on earth, but even then they are actually clueless about what true neglect looks like. So I have had, like, it's not that I have not had friends with whom I have spoken about my problems related to childhood days, but when I didn't know that I was getting neglected, or when I wasn't aware that this is a form of abuse that was going on with me, until then I can't express that this is abuse. And if another person is also not aware that this is a form of abuse or neglect, even they will not understand that it is a form of abuse or neglect. So only when I was in my 30s and 40s is the time when I finally recognized that all these things, that just when I was going through the experience, it was an uncomfortable experience, painful experience, heartbreaking experience, traumatizing experience, sometimes abusive experience, sometimes conflict filled experience. But only later, after the experience has gone away, I have done the inner work related to that experience. I have learned some teachings associated with those experiences. I have done some deeper self-reflection about my part in that experience and someone else's part in that experience. That is when I finally realized that where is it where when I'm categorizing something as neglect, was true neglect present? Where is it when I'm categorizing something as disrespect, true disrespect was present? Where is it when I'm categorizing someone as a sociopath or a psychopath? Those kind of tendencies, or narcissist, those, or Munchausen by proxy, those tendencies were actually present in my experience with those people. And this thing clicked later on, not when I was going through that experience. It wasn't that I am married to someone and I categorize that this person is a narcissist or a sociopath or an emotional manipulator or a psychological manipulator. I didn't do that. So God kept me completely unaware about any of these concepts, except for the twin flame concept. None of the other concepts related to whatever I talk about in some of my videos, I was actually consciously aware about, because I was supposed to, and awakening is that as well for many of us. We are supposed to awaken to the thing that is related to our higher purpose only the moment after we have had gathered enough life experiences to have categorized that experience as a problem zone or a thing. Because when you are a twin flame, and when I'm talking about higher purpose of any individual, you are a twin flame with a higher purpose, or you are an ascending soul who has come to help with the ascension on earth. All of us have to gain awareness. When you're ascending, you have to bring some change. So in order to bring that change, where you need to bring the change, where healing is required, some people are working on healing, some people are working on change, some people are working on shifting things, some people are working on destroying certain things. So all these things are part of the ascension work people have to do, and some people are just bringing light to the topics that need to be addressed. So a person like me is talking, that's why I'm doing a little less and talking a little bit more. So while certain things I have executed in my life, I'm not the perfect executor, because I'm just meant to be a guide at this point about certain things, and I am also practicing certain things that I'm talking in this video actively as I'm going, sometimes passively, sometimes really bad at practicing it. So my mastery of it has not yet been achieved. So I'm still at a novice level, even though conceptually there are many concepts I'm downloading currently, because of the fact that when you are in your resting phase in life, diseased phase, I was in a diseased phase, I was in a resting phase, I was in a very socially isolated phase, a person like that is more likely to download many important things that needs to be first downloaded. Like first I have to download the information. I have been assimilating some of the information for a long time, and then after having downloaded the information, assimilated the information, then I am talking about that information. So I didn't just sit and judge someone that, oh, this person has Munchausen's by proxy the first day I went and met someone. Neither do I judge someone and say this person has narcissistic tendencies. Nor do I judge someone and say this person is manipulative or psychologically abusive. All these things clicked for me actually after I left those relationships, many years after I left the relationship, 10, 20, 30 years after I went through that experience. That in my previous video when I was talking about the child neglect, almost 30 years later I am realizing that I had a neglectful childhood. Because when you're growing up as a child in any home, you will see this is common with all people who have gone through some abuse or neglect or trauma in their childhood. For them it might become a very normalized experience. This is also the reason why children experience Stockholm syndrome. In Stockholm syndrome, you will see a child who has been kidnapped, or a person who has been kidnapped by someone and has been living life with them for many years or decades. They start even loving or having a camaraderie with the person who raised them, even though the person who has raised them or had kidnapped them, and some of them had not only just kidnapped them but had been really cruelly, physically, verbally, emotionally, psychologically abusive towards them. Even then you will have some semblance of humane connection with the person who has abused you. So Stockholm syndrome is one example, but there are many other examples where children who are also children who have had narcissistic parents, abusive parents, many people will still love their parents despite the abuse, despite the cruel conditions of their life, or be emotionally tied to a toxic parent despite the parent having been very toxic towards them. So lack of love is not the reason why someone categorizes their parent as a narcissist or an abuser or a psychological manipulator or something. Be it a parent, be it a partner. It's not the lack of love that causes it, but when after being cruelly mistreated by someone for a long time, when you gain the discernment that where the mistreatment was partly your responsibility. Because sometimes, if you're in a simple conflict filled relationship or a ego based problem zone with someone like your friend or your family, that is a easily fixable problem when it is a simple conflict of just two egos clashing together, and it's a fixable and workable problem when both people are equally invested in fixing that problem. Whereas the moment that imbalance occurs and the expectation of fixing the problem falls on only one person in the relationship, or the burden of caretaking, love, everything falls only on one person or majorly on one person, that is the moment it becomes an imbalanced relationship. And an imbalanced relationship, that is then categorized as a narcissistic relationship, or a abusive relationship, or a conflict based relationship, or a manipulative relationship, and all the terminologies that therapists and psychologists use, psychiatrists use for ascribing a name to a condition, that if that condition persists a lot and continuously, it can be a harmful condition. All of us can have a little bit narcissistic tendency, but does where we prioritize ourselves, or want to only look at our needs first. But though all of us have narcissistic and selfish tendencies, are all of us is everyone categorized as a narcissist? No. Even though we are selfish in some ways, we might be narcissistic in some ways. We get characterized, someone gets characterized as a narcissistic personality when they are doing multiple things, continuous things, repeated things, where they are continuously disregarding the emotions and needs and thoughts and wishes of the partner. And then that same narcissistic relationship, where in the previous video the fourth example that I had posted, and I discussed it it wasn't discussed in the video, but it was discussed in the description section, and I will discuss it here one more time. There's a couple who are renewing their wedding vows. When renewing the wedding vows, now the guy possibly didn't want to have a very fancy dress up for the thing, so both of them were very casually dressed. It was a summer wedding vow renewal, so they were very casually dressed in summer clothes, and the wife was dressed in white, but the guy was dressed in green and shades of colors that are very reminiscent of army fatigue military uniform like colors. And then when they were doing the cake cutting in front of the guests, the husband was going to feed the cake, and the wife knew that he might smear the cake on her face. Now, how does she know that? Because she knows her husband, and because apparently he had done this smearing of the cake on her face during their wedding day as well, original wedding day. So she said, please do not do it. I've already warned you. Please do not do this. She warned him a couple of times in that scenario. And you can tell that she has been preparing him that he shouldn't smear the cake on her face. But and she jerked a little bit back when he was trying to feed the cake, because her instinct told her he might smear it on her face. So though her instinct warned her about this, though she warned her spouse that please don't do this, he still smeared the cake on her face, and then she got upset. But because by then she was intuitively sure that it might happen that he would disrespect her, all she did was a few minutes of, I knew you were going to do this and this is hurtful, and she said a few things that she wanted to say, but she wasn't like overly ballistic. But imagine now if this wedding day was happening to a woman who was very much in a less relaxed phase, much more stressed phase for some reason, much more abused relationship paradigm was manifesting for that same woman. In the same scenario can repeat for another couple, where now the wife can go through the same scenario, say the same words, the husband can do the same thing, and he's like, it's just a joke, he said that to her. But if you look at the comments of that video, in the comments only many people have suggested that it shows how much invested he was in the relationship, it shows how much he's been immature, despite like when they're renewing their vows, they're possibly renewing it at least 5 years down the line, 10-20 years down the line, right? Most people don't renew their wedding vows immediately after a few years. Most people will take at least 10 years, 20 years to renew their vow. And looking at their age, it seems like at least 5 or 10 years must have passed. And I didn't look at the description of that, so I don't know if the description had told how many years they have been married. But so looking at their age, it seems like a 10-year marriage, possibly. Now, in that 10-year or a 5-year marriage, if during the wedding day he had smeared cake, and she mentions in the video that I didn't like it even back then, he has had at least knowing the tendency of women and tendency of men. If men never apologize for something that they have done that has upset their partner, sometimes women have the tendency to not be able to let go of that issue, and they might bring it up in other future fights. So it's not possible that from that wedding day till today, when till the day when the vow renewal was happening, that at least 5 or 6 times she might not have mentioned this boundary of she doesn't like. And possibly when they have been celebrating their anniversaries, or they have been cutting cakes. There are many occasions in which you cut cakes. So in all these occasions, she might have mentioned at least 10, 15, 20 occurrences might have happened by then, where in all those instances, she has mentioned she doesn't like being smeared by a cake. And the husband knows this. It's a thing that he would likely know at least 10 to 15 times. If they have not had an argument and they have been a very good couple to each other without any arguments, at least 1 or 2 times she would have mentioned minimum that she doesn't like getting smeared by cake. If they had some repeating arguments where in some other occasions he might have smeared cakes, she might have had a deeper discussion about this with him. But despite that, this is smearing of a cake is such a simple request, right? It's not a very big deal for anyone. It's just a question of not impulsively doing something that upsets your partner. It's not a very difficult thing to be nice to your partner. If your partner says do not do this, it's actually a very easy thing to do for someone, because it's not a major request. They're not asking you come and climb this big huge mountain for me. They're just saying please do not do this. And that is what feminine energy is meant to say. This is the other thing. If you are in your feminine energy with certain things that are not good for your relationship, not good for your emotional health, not good for something that on the day when you are arguing with your partner, you may not understand why it is not good for your relationship. But if you reflect deeply, you will eventually understand. When enough context of life has built up, then you might understand why it was important to meet these simple requests of your partner. So he is not willing to even meet a simple request. Where why was she possibly making that request? She may not like the oiliness of the cake smeared on her face. She doesn't want to go and wipe her face and put on a new makeup for the wedding photography that her friends might be doing. She may want to interact. She doesn't want to take a 15 minutes break going to the bathroom or 20 minutes break going to the bathroom. She wants a continuous easy flow in the wedding ceremony, right? So at the simplest level, these would be her reasons. There could be much more complex reasons as well for someone. If you're unhealthy, there could be other things also going on that could add to your not wanting this. But these are at least the simplest things that a husband can do. It's not a big deal. But despite that, he didn't follow the request. And the part that was very stark to me was, and I didn't observe this initially, but when people have mentioned in the comments, they are mentioning that this guy didn't even take the effort. Like, while she at least wore for wedding vows, she's wearing at least a white dress. So he could have also worn, he doesn't need to wear a tuxedo, but he could have worn a little bit more cleaner clothes than something that he wears just simply in the house, right? Or he could have also matched her. Like in wedding, you usually coordinate with your partner the colors of the outfits that you're going to wear. So he could have had at least a white handkerchief, or worn white shorts, or worn a white t-shirt, something to show that they are renewing whatever he wore in his wedding. That same color he could have repeated here, but he didn't do any effort related to that. So that by itself shows that he was not ready to actually do the vows. He is just doing it because maybe his wife or his friends convinced him to do it. But it's also not that for me, because I am sensitive to neglect and passive aggressive moves by men or other family. I felt that he was actually making a very passive aggressive move, which was evidenced when actually the friend of the bride, who many of the commenters also said that so many friends have possibly even heard from the bride about this cake issue or other issues that the couples may be having. So that friend of the bride might have decided only, like, if he does this, I'm going to do this to him. So what did she do? She went and smeared a bit of cake on his face. And as soon as she smeared a bit of cake, he got really pissed off, because he didn't think. And why did he get pissed off? And this is the place where people who do not understand abusers do not understand how the mentality of a covert passive aggressive abuser or a manipulative abuser works, how they think, and what is the indicator of he was trying to create a scenario of covert narcissistic abuse that day. But because the girl was in a good mood, it didn't escalate into becoming a he didn't win in she was also in a good mood, her friend was in a supportive mood. So as a result, it didn't escalate into the abuse of the wife. Because otherwise, let's say the wife was smeared and she was upset, and let's say she was on her periods, or her periods were going to happen in the next week, or she was harrowed and had a busy few days of work, and that's why she was very busy, or they have children, she was busy with childcare taking. All these things actually impact a woman's mood, because a woman is meant to be, they are always usually, when will it impact a woman's mood? That woman who is unsupported by her spouse, unsupported by her family or friends or social group, their mood, when they are highly unsupported in their physical life with people who are emotionally caretaking them, they are super sensitive to these scenarios. Which is why, when in my past videos, I have talked about my relationship problems, and because I am a highly unsupported and neglected person, and have been like that for majority of my life, it has taken me years and years and years to talk in this tone about painful relationship experiences with partners. And I would, if I was in place of that woman and this scenario had played in my life when I was dating my first boyfriend, second boyfriend, or my husband, or even the current person who I think is my twin flame, and the version of him that I have seen, which is very reminiscent of this guy, in all these four men scenarios, I know I would have been majorly pissed off. I would have been verbally abusive. I would have been annoyed. At the very least, I would have been annoyed, and I would have shouted or cried. If I was in the shouting phase where anger was coming up more, I would have shouted. Or gone into a rant. If I was in a phase where emotionally I'm feeling extremely hurt, I would have ended up crying. If I was in a phase where I knew that this hurt was going to come and God has prepared me for the hurt, I might have even shut down and not said anything at all. And this girl knew about it, so she was in the shutdown phase. She didn't say much. Okay. But if she was in her other two phases, she would have said something, or she would have cried, making her look like the villain, making people now sympathize with the guy instead. So while in this video, people are sympathizing with the girl, especially because her friend stood up for her. Otherwise, if no one had stood up for her, what would have happened was, he would have, and if not only no one has been standing up for her that day, the reason why she would break down or get angry is because for many years possibly no one is supporting her. Many years possibly she doesn't have good friends with good listening or advice or other social support system that is there to cushion her hurt or cushion her lack of agency, because this shows a lack of agency in a relationship if a partner is not even ready to meet your simple requests of simple normal care. This is a very small act of care, but if he had carefully just accepted the fact that my wife doesn't want the cake on her face, and he truly cared and loved her, he would have done that. He would have ensured not to upset her, not to make her angry. That is what a true high quality relationship is supposed to be between any kind of partner, be it a twin flame, be it a divine counterpart, be it a soulmate relationship. It doesn't matter. You bring care and consideration into these simple acts with your of relationship moments with your partner. But when a man is in their devil energy, or and this can happen, the genders can be flipped also in a relationship, but this is a typical pattern of some certain men that I have dated, so I resonate very much with this pattern. Not just men I have dated, but in my own family life, my brother and dad are also this way. They cannot meet even simple requests. They're worse actually than this guy. So this guy's passive aggressive thing didn't pan out, because if his passive aggressive move had panned out and she would have been upset or she had started crying, he would have turned at least 30 to 50% of the wedding guests in his side. Because the moment a woman starts shouting, the moment a woman starts crying, the moment a woman starts shrieking, it is all categorized into the basket of the woman being dramatic, and his "it's just a joke" would have been accepted by everyone, that he's just trying to be joking and humorous and bring a little bit of humor for his audience, because that is what he was going for. He wanted to bring that humor. He wanted to make himself look like the good guy by villainizing his wife or dramatizing his wife's responses and make her look like the bad woman. And I'm pretty sure he has done this not just in this video. In this video he failed at his attempt, but in the past there might have been many instances where he didn't fail and he ended up triggering her into shouting, or triggering her into saying something mean, or triggering her into crying, or triggering her into taking 20 minutes break to go to the bathroom to wash her face and wait a few minutes to come outside. All of this would have given him great joy to bring that pain to her, and which is what is passive aggressive abuse, covert abuse, manipulative abuse, psychological manipulation of a partner. These are all tendencies that people execute in a relationship when they want to look like the good guy and they want to make someone else look like the villain in the relationship. And for him, the win would have been if 50%, 30%, or majority of the guests support him, he would have been happy doing that. But then what happened instead? She didn't cause the drama. She just left the scene for a few minutes. Her friend stepped in, and now imagine this. If some women, if they are like me, if I don't shout, if I don't cry, I might have done exactly the same thing that the friend did. But if I did it, he would have anticipated that move from me putting the cake on his face. Like if I was in the place of the wife and if I had done the same thing that he is doing, he knows that these are all the possible scenarios people will play out. So the people who play psychological game of winning against a partner, they are that level clever. So they have anticipated all these. They're like a chess master I'm really bad at chess, but this is a basic thing I understand about chess, that people anticipate, those people who are psychological abusers of another human being or manipulators of another human being, they do this chess mastery like thing. They know that knowing this personality, knowing this person for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, I have abusers who know me for 40 years. So for 40 years they have studied what things trigger me, what are the things that will upset me. So they use all those tactics to ensure that to bring that response from me that will trigger me or make me upset or make me cry. And each of them, if I cry, it brings them joy. If I am upset, it will bring them joy. If I am hurt, it will bring them joy. If I turn silent, it also, sometimes even the silence brings them joy, because for them it's the win against whatever I can do to create chaos in your life or bring misery in your life. So they're very antisocial personality types also. So for them, doing the opposite of what normal husbands, normal spouses, normal friends and family will do, doing the opposite of that brings them more joy. And for them, just having this joy out of these little like simple joys for a normal human being, when the saying is there that life's good moments are in the simple joys of life, For all of us, the simple joys of life is what? Cutting a cake with family, celebrating a summer day with a lot of friends, chatting around with a lot of friends, having a normal time with a lot of friends where you get to enjoy the breeze, get to enjoy the sun, get to enjoy the greenery, get to enjoy the fact that you have a partner in your life. This is what a normal person who is celebrating their wedding vows would be wanting to do. But someone who's an antisocial personality, they don't want normalcy, they want that superiority against a partner. They likely hate their partner, but instead of verbally saying it that they hate their partner, they hate their marriage, they do not want to say that they hate their marriage. But he has worn those army fatigue color clothes or military uniform color resonating clothes because he is in that battle mood with his wife, and but he doesn't want to show to the world that he is the abuser or he is also equally responsible for a bad relationship to exist with the partner. And he wants to win against his partner, and his simple pleasure is irking his wife, ensuring his wife will shout at him, ensuring his wife will look like a villain in front of guests, because this is what my dad also used to do about my mom. And my mom was a much more innocent woman. She never used to talk about her problems with anyone, so she was very easily manipulated into and she was also a very meeker woman, so she would not even protest many a times that these things were being done to her. She wouldn't, and she was such a meeker woman that she didn't even realize that actually covert abuse was going on with her. She just knew that something bad was happening to her, so she felt hurt about it. But when you have conscious awareness that covert abuse or manipulation is going on, you're not simply hurt about it, you also proactively want to do something about it. And her friends were hurt about how she has been treated. That's why her friends stepped in and slapped that cake on his face. But he got angry. You didn't see the video, but he had a very ferocious anger in him. It was a few seconds of anger that was displayed. But this is how a covert abuser is. The moment their plan fails, they become this aggressive, ferocious, poisonous creature in front of another human being. And this mask that fell off him for these few seconds in this video, this is the face he actually presents to his wife many of the times when fights are happening with that wife. And while this anger, because it's like a very quick and ferocious anger that comes and goes, and a mercurial anger, it is very less observable. Even if, like, say a wife files for domestic abuse or domestic, I'm not saying that they have domestic abuse, domestic violence going on in their relationship, but there are people who will have these similar patterns in their marriages where domestic abuse and domestic violence would also be part of the narrative of their relationship. And in that scenario, if a partner has complained about their past partner that domestic abuse, domestic violence is going on, and someone is, let's say, videographing the evidence to collect evidence that is she making the right claim or is she falsely making a claim, at that time also you will see the covert manipulators are very hard to discern by many people, because their anger, their ferociousness are slight cuts of anger, slight passive aggressive moves. They try to coach all their moves in the form of a good guy, nice guy, fun guy. It was not fun for him, right? When he got slapped by the cake on his face, it was a literal, she didn't really literally slap him, she only touched his face the same way he had touched the wife's face with the cake. But despite that, he was so offended by it because his move was played by him, right? So if it was such a joking thing for him, why is he not okay with the cake being mushed on his face? Because someone who is not a passive aggressive person and who is truly just doing it for fun, or occasionally does this fun things with his wife, or when both husband and wife are on the prank of pranking each other. There are many couples who may have good relationship dynamics where if a husband puts cake on the wife will also put cake or do some other prank with the husband, and they have a jovial, fun relationship with each other. That is not a passive aggressive abuse. There, if the wife also says don't do it, but if she's smilingly saying don't do it, or if she later on responds with a mischief of her own, at that point that is a healthy couple. But the moment it is a place where the wife is saying don't do it and the husband still does it, and not only does he still do it, but he has come prepared to insult her, those places, and his insult thing failed, right? Because she didn't create drama, because she didn't respond too much, she didn't even react too much, she just possibly went to wipe her face. And that's the time when the friend put the cake on his face. But because, tables were turned against him, he immediately got angry, because he couldn't and this is what a passive aggressive covert psychological abuser does. They get very angry when their plans fail. A narcissistic abuser also does. They will get angry when their plan fails. They will get upset that the same thing, if someone else dishes out to them what they have done to their partner, what they are saying in the guise of a joke, they have been doing it, but it wasn't a joke for him, right? So that is why the anger is coming, because if it was a joke, he would have also laughed it off when the girl friend came and put cake on his face, and he's like, yeah, see, this is and or if he's a high class abuser, that person may fake being happy with the cake smearing. But he is not that high class abuser also. He is in the mid range of a abuser personality type, and his plan failed against his wife, and someone else putting a cake, that's why it was offensive towards him, because he also doesn't like cake smearing on his face. He also doesn't like when his photo opportunity gets spoiled now. And he had wanted, right? And what happened is the tables got turned. He had wanted the wife to be upset. He had wanted the wife to go and clean off her face, while in the 20-30 minutes she will be gone. He would possibly have, and if the friend hadn't intervened, he could have also used those 20-30 minutes to make joke against his wife, to make passive aggressive comments that will seem like how comedians make all these jokes about their wife and their family and all these things. While those jokes seem okay when in a normal life, jokes also have a place and jokes also don't have a place. So for him, he would have made those jokes just to demean his wife and make himself feel better about it. But he didn't get all those opportunities, because his opportunity got ruined. Now he has to go and clean his face up as well. So, the tables got turned, and that's why that moment of anger immediately came to him, because he had lack of control in that situation of turning the narrative against his wife, of charming the audience against how wives can be this and that, because he would have psychologically manipulated the audience also, while even if she wasn't upset and she had just merely gone to clean her face, those 15 minutes was all he needed to passive aggressively just went out. Actually, it's a passive aggressive way of him to vent out against his wife. He wanted that opportunity. That's why he was in this fatigue dress. So this thing, many people who are not abused by these covert abusers or passive aggressive abusers, or those who are enablers of these kind of behavioral patterns, they will not recognize, only because if you also passive aggressively say certain comments against your partner, you will not recognize it. If you have a good innocent heart, you will not recognize it. You will think, oh, this is just good clean fun, it's a joke. You will continue believing his narrative that it's a joke. But a psychological manipulator relies on the fact that most of the people, and that is the pleasure that they get, the sadistic pleasure that they get at the expense of their spouse or a victim that they are abusing psychologically or emotionally, they get that pleasure only because of the fact that for them, to the 90% of the population outside, it just seems like a joke. Whereas only very few people, the victim, might understand the real depth of the pain they are going through, and the other people associated the victim who have heard the narrative of what the victim has gone through, they might understand it maybe a little bit more, depending on how deeply empathetic you are towards your the victim's narration, and how discerning you are. So out of 10 people and 10 friends or family, she might have narrated some passive aggressive incidences. Most of them will either not trust that a man can do this, because even though this video recording has also come, many people still may not understand the red flag of what I have discussed here for so many minutes. if you are in denial of abuse, if you want to continue being in denial about someone being an abuser, then despite these evidences also many people do not understand when real abuse is happening. And that is how only many real abusers, when people go and complain also about their abuse, sometimes you do not get justice for these kind of abuse. Psychological abuse and emotional abuse is very and covert tactics using abuse is very difficult to understand unless you have yourself been the brunt of that abuse, and for many years or from many sources, unless you have experienced that abuse. And I have experienced it in these minor levels and even more major levels than what was presented in this video via very many partners. And in that, only out of those partners, only some were jokester like people, but I understood when the joke was really just them having fun, and when the joke had, and in them having fun also, there is a day when if you are constantly having fun at the a person might be cheerful about occasionally them being a butt of jokes. When I'm not at the same level as you, I have already had too much of a problem in my life for many years. So for me, I do not have the thinking capacity to think and invest time in creating a prank or creating a joke. Which other person would be likely complementary partner to the person who loves playing jokes on his wife is someone where the wife also, having had a very relaxed life like him, she is also ready to play jokes with him. So if they are both had some similar level relaxing life or similar level sense of humor, and at the same level wavelength about humor and all these things, they can both play pranks on each other and have fun at the expense of each other and balance their relationship out. But a woman who has been abused or neglected, or whose husband is actually coaching everything as a form of humor, but actually no humor is present in that relationship, it's not been done with the spirit of goodness, or with the spirit or intent of showing love to the wife, because you can jokingly tease your partner also, and you can jokingly insult your partner also, and the difference lies in the intent of behind what you are doing to your partner or family, because this can happen with someone who is your family as well. With me, my family has done this with me also many a times, where they know that if they start arguing about something just when some maid is going to come, or just when the delivery person is going to come, in front of the maid, in front of the delivery person, as soon as I go in, get triggered and go into the verbally abusive zones, I get categorized as the abuser, simply because I'm so triggered. And by then, these kind of psychological abusers, they don't trigger you just that moment when you start shouting at them. They wait 2-3 days, they will continuously do something. Every day they will continuously do something, and then on the 3rd day, 4th day, 10th time, 100th time, there is a limit. Everyone has a limit, so depending on the limit of a person, they will trigger you then into a response, and that is their fun. So this is the problem with antisocial personalities. And those who are in the ascension journey, can you collaboratively go into a ascension journey where consistently people like this are present in your group, present in your social whatever is your purpose in life. Let's say you're a twin flame, your purpose is to talk about patriarchy problems. Now you can talk about, if a partner and you are both having same sense of humor, you can create jokes about patriarchy and educate people using humor. But if a partner is actually very patriarchy supportive, but they are not your twin flame also, or a high level partner, and they are abusive towards you, what will that person do? That person will now pretend to support patriarchy, like they will want to emulate, because this is also a problem. They are antisocial personalities because they do not have the normal emotions, normal human connectivity, a normal heart-centered approach towards other human beings. And this other people who have not met antisocial personalities, narcissists, or these kind of high level sociopathic tendency holding people, they do not understand these kind of manipulators and abusers and psychological abusers, or people who play these games with their partners. For them, it's a fun experience to do. For them, it's an enjoyable experience to be this demeaning towards a partner or a family. And the joke is, if they're high IQ, their fun is the fact that they know that at least 90%, 80% of the audience will never, or even sometimes 900% of the audiences who are witnessing the abuse will never understand that they are witnessing a abusive situation. And not sometimes 100% don't understand that abuse is going on. Sometimes even if 1 or 2% understand that the abuse is going on, they can't quite figure out where the abuse is going on. And sometimes even if they figure out the abuse, they don't understand the implication of that abuse in the long term, and the emotional and trauma level, and the daily lack of care and neglect level of the relationship. Because a person who doesn't listen to even simple requests that do not apply this on face, do you think they will respect you? Like, if it is, that person is also very likely going to be a person who will, when the wife is sleeping, take naked pictures of her, and is likely out of revenge against that. Like, if they get divorced, very likely there are naked pictures of her that are going to end up somewhere in the internet. That can happen. He is very likely to also have you seen the case of the lady in France, where her husband drugged her and then let many men rape her while she was drugged? So she was not conscious of the rape that was happening. I don't know, I haven't watched the details of the case. I do not even want to watch the details of her case. But this simple fact that someone has the capacity to drug you and then cause men to rape you while you are drugged and in a woozy situation where you're not conscious actually as a human being when you are drugged. Sometimes, like, many day trip drugs or chemicals are there on earth, which after you consume them, you will have zero memory of what was done to your body. Later on, your body might be hurting. You might have the emotional impact and psychological impact of that. You will see that women also, if you look at her face, it's all weathered out and she looks really haggard and old. And if you look at her husband, because he's been having fun at her expense, look at his face. He looks very, not just fun, he's been gaining money at her expense, at pimping her out to all these men. Technically, he was pimping her out without her knowledge, but that is such a betrayal that she went through. And he looks like a very young and casual and very young looking person, whereas in reality they both possibly might be very closer to each other in age. So why is this difference happening to a woman? Because a woman has given a lot to a relationship. She has not only given a lot has been taken from her by all these men who slept with her while she was drugged, without her having awareness that that was done to her body. So like that woman, what happened to her in a mass scale and really nasty scale, with so many men willing to take advantage of her like that, there are women whose husbands have done this, and I didn't realize this about myself. But in my past, there are times where I have slept, I've gone, I used to date people, so I've gone to their homes, and occasionally, once a year, once in a few months, would go to their homes and sleep with them in the same bed. But I was very against having premarital sex at that time. So there would be some sex related problems that would crop up in the relationship, sexual boundary related problems that would crop up in the relationships. And then while the sexual boundary related problems were cropping up, I was trusting them very implicitly. And because I was trusting them implicitly, and I didn't think that they were that level, high level, mentally distorted personalities. So at that time, I didn't realize it. But 20 years later, 30 years later, I'm realizing that they had likely drugged me many a times when I have slept with them. Because one time I had woken up early in the morning while going to work, very, very groggy. And I didn't understand because I didn't consume any alcohol. Very rarely in my first 10 years in US, I have only handful of times consumed alcohol, that too like 1 ml sips, and those were days when I had not consumed any alcohol. Despite that, I woke up really groggy. I went into an accident that day as a result of the grogginess, and I missed a traffic signaling thing, and I got ticketed also for it. My car got totaled also as a result of it. All these things had happened. But not just that day when I woke up feeling groggy, but there are many other days where I have now I'm realizing that I had completely passed out. I didn't realize that I had passed out in a way that is reminiscent of being drugged by someone. And that is what a partner can do to you if you trust them implicitly. They can drug you anytime and do things to you that you will not be aware that was done to you while you were drugged. So I have had those experiences, and same thing with my the ex who has psychologically manipulated. With him also that experience has cropped up, and this is a dangerous zone for many women. If you want to ascend now to a higher level of living with any partner, any trusted partner, be it a divine counterpart, be it a twin flame, why do you go through these challenges of being drugged, challenges of being abused by some one of the opposite gender, challenges of being manipulated and abused without your knowing only that you were trusting them so much? So at that point you didn't know you were drugged, and I was drugged by my family when I was a child also. Now I realize slowly when in recent years certain things started happening where worse and worse poisoning was happening to me. That is when I realized how many times people I have trusted have drugged me by enticing me into I'm just having a simple meal with them. But at that time I didn't know that the simple meal, like a person who's my grandparent, they gave me a milkshake like a child drinks, Horlicks and things like that. And after consuming Horlicks, at that time I didn't remember as a child that after consuming the Horlicks I fell asleep. But now I realize that after consuming that Horlicks, my family had actually put something in that Horlicks that was actually toxic for me, actually health harming for me, actually drugged thing was being done to me. And same thing later on I realized all the places where my mother also, when I say she was covertly abused, her covert abuse story also I pieced together only when my life mirrored in the last 8-10 years many things that had happened to my mother in the last 8-10 years of her life. And in those 8-10 years she was also waking up a little late in the morning, and my dad spun the narrative that she was depressed and she was incompetent and that's why she's waking up late in the morning. But now I'm realizing that that is not why she was waking up late. She was also likely being drugged, and as a result she was also not able to wake up early in the morning like how she used to do when I was younger. And she had at those time points when I was younger, she used to take us to school early in the morning or pack our bags for lunch early in the morning. All these things she used to be able to do. And yeah, she's not a very early morning riser, but she was still a competent enough mother to do many things that she used to do. But in the last 5-6 years of before her death, all of those activities went away because she was getting heavily drugged by this person by whoever she trusted. And which is my who was there in the house when she was getting drugged? Me, my brother and dad. And out of these three, who do you think had the most access to drugs? Whoever had the most access to drugs only was doing that, right? And so these things are something people you trust only can sometimes be such a high level abuser. And the modern abuser is not the easy abuser who just lashes out at someone or who just beats someone. The high level sociopathic, narcissistic or really intelligent abuser plays these chess games of abuse with their victims. So and that's why only I'm telling this tale, because it is important. I still don't know whether I will survive through the abuse I'm going through. I still don't know whether I will be able to have a more normal life than all the 40 years of miserable life that I have led, where in all those 40 years, many years, I didn't know what was going on, because that is how covert manipulative abuse or psychological abuse actually is. You do not even understand as a victim that that was what was going on with you, or that is what was unfolding in your life as a result of choices made by people you have trusted who are not actually trustworthy, but because they are the only caretakers you have known since childhood, you assume them to be trustworthy people when they may not actually be anyone who has any real care, consideration, love for you, towards you. And that is when only covert narcissistic abuse, psychological abuse, manipulation, high level manipulation, financial abuse, all and these deeper neglect related paradigms, whatever manifests in a person's life, all these are able to manifest in their life when there is multiple people or a group of people who simply do not care about the consequence towards what is happening to the victim. They just simply care about themselves more. They just simply some care about their own fun more, some care about their own gain more, some care about their own personal agenda more, some care about just been looking like the good guy more or the good girl more than actually truly being a good guy or good girl towards someone. Some care about some monetary gain that they might have covertly been responsible for gaining as a result of all this. Whatever is going on with different abusers, different things are going on, but this is the pattern that abuse and neglect, and it starts off as neglect. It seems like a neglectful act to simply not regard your spouse, saying do not do this, but that person who does not just the person who starts planning, who's not just simply not doing what you are saying do not do, and they're doing it nonetheless, that person might simply be a conflict oriented or a abusive partner of the minor level. But the partner who doesn't simply listen to you when you say no and set a boundary, like if I've set a sexual boundary, I do not want to have sex, even then if someone drugs me and then inserts their penis inside me while I am sleeping and I do not know that has happened to me, have they breached the boundary that I said do not have sex? Or even if I am not consciously aware that they slept with me, does it mean my rape didn't happen? Like the girl, the lady in France, when rape happened to her, she was not consciously aware about many of these counts of rape. She likely was not even aware that she was getting raped. Only later on she understood that that is what was happening with her, right? So, and it might have taken her many years to finally figure out that she was getting drugged, she was getting raped, with her body showing signs of rape, that she might have finally figured out, or some evidence was gathered by someone who around her cared enough to understand something wrong was happening to her to have helped her gather the evidence. Otherwise, without the help of supportive people, when that level nasty abuse is going on with someone, very few people are there to discern and understand that when that level nastiness goes on with a woman. So this wife also, God knows what was going on with her. Actually, what mask came off his face in front of the audience in that few seconds of the video, much worse things have definitely gone on with her. Whether she's consciously aware of it or not aware of it is a different issue, but definitely it is going on with her. So people who are working in these areas related to abusers, related to bringing justice in the world, be it a women abuser or a man abuser, and people who are in the ascension journey, in the twin flame journey, we all will go through some of these challenges. Why? Because as a twin flame, let's say I'm not aware that some abuse is going on with me. But if my twin flame is God, has divine counterparts and twin flames, because God knows, even though humans do not believe in God, there is a real God in the world. There is a creator of the world who observes us and helps us in our life journey. That God knows when something is going on in your life that is painful, and twin flames know that some twin flames chose the painful path. Why? Because if I hadn't experienced all the kinds of abuses I have experienced, all the kinds of abusers who have abused me, and taken the time to realize after 10 years, 20 years what was going on in the past, can I help any other woman who has, or a man who has gone through those level of abuse and manipulation or coercion or other things that have happened to them? Can I help anyone else in a similar situation like me, and anyone else with a worse situation than mine? I cannot. So I have to go through those painful experiences. And if I didn't have a twin flame where, let's say someone is wiping my memory out, if my memory is getting wiped out by taking medications or something at that time also. That's why God has created not just twin flames, God has created many other ways to now help in combating these abuse related issues, by also giving people claircognizance, clairvoyance and other things, because I have also had dreams or clairvoyance related dreams about people who I didn't know why I have had dreams about them. But one lady I mentioned in one of my past videos, her dream was about a abusive partner. There is another lady whose dream I have had, which is related to my other work that I do. So different people's dreams are related to different things related to that victim, and at that point I didn't know that these are my future life purposes. So I had these dreams many years back, many months back. I didn't know what the purpose of those dreams were, and I was not meant to know at the time I dreamt what the dream was supposed to be. But now slowly as I'm awakening, go and according to the divine timing of my awakening and awareness level, that is when I am understanding what my dream was supposed to be about. And some of the dreams, what they are supposed to be about, have been revealed to me, not all the dreams. So I hope this was insightful and beneficial, and if anyone has questions, comments, would like to get in touch with me, try to get in touch with me via the social media pages I have listed here. But because something weird is happening with me currently, my Instagram page is currently not working. I'm going to find out a way where hopefully someone can get in touch with me in a better way. But until then, at least drop some comments about anything that you find insightful in these videos. That would help me in understanding if the concepts I'm discussing here are clearer and beneficial to you. Thank you very much. Have a great day.